Welcome, Lawrence, to Fast Politics.
Thank you very much. This is the earliest I've been on a video camera in, well, I guess since the last time I did Morning Joe. But there,
Yeah.
of course, that comes with several pounds of makeup, so I feel protected there when that happens. But
I wanted to ask you one of the things that I thought was incredible this morning, which I'm very curious to know your thoughts on. I was actually in the morning, I went to Morning Joe, and before I go, I listened to these two very obnoxious politics, sort of B2B podcasts. And then I listened to all of the Washington Post because it's
it
basically
is.
all AI narrated.
Mhm.
So as I was listening to it on my way, I looked at the homepage and it had Israel striking Qatar or trying to strike the negotiators in the peace
Yeah.
talk. And then it had Russia sending drones to Poland. And I thought to myself, I thought Donald Trump was going to end all foreign wars.
Yeah, this is funny because I was just literally minutes ago, I was thinking this, that because of exactly what you just said, that it turns out no one is afraid of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
No one. No one out there in the world is afraid of Donald Trump. And his whole sales pitch is, I'm such a tough guy and I'm an international tough guy, and Putin will bend to my will on the first day,
Yeah.
on day one. Okay, so day one was when Putin was supposed to just do whatever Donald Trump said, which, oh, by the way, was Vladimir, I want you to win the war. How can I help you win the war? By abandoning Zelensky. And even with that willingness to go all the way to the Putin side, nothing could happen because even that wasn't enough for Vladimir Putin. And then you see, what Benjamin Netanyahu's willing to do, certainly knowing that the Trump administration would oppose it. And so the way Netanyahu decides to do that is apparently, according to the news accounts so far, who knows if this is true, but well, we just won't tell them.
Yeah.
We just won't tell him we'll do it, and then Trump will have to deal with it after the fact. And
Yeah.
because Trump's a moron, he'll deal with it moronically,
Yeah.
and that's your guarantee. Like that's
Yeah.
your guarantee. If you're Netanyahu, it's nothing to worry about. He's a moron,
Yeah.
so it won't matter. Nothing matters with Trump.
Yeah.
There are no gravitational forces, and there are no consequences. And this is what has changed so dramatically in American government. And now extending out into American life, the notion that there are no consequences. And if Trump says X and then Y happens, there will be a consequence from Trump. No, there won't. No, there won't. Or, if Trump breaks the law, there will be a consequence. No, there won't.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
and it goes right down the road, and in this story, if Jeffrey Epstein gets arrested for, child trafficking and raping children, that'll be the end of the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing. And the answer is no, it won't.
Yeah.
JP Morgan's going to hang in there because he only got arrested once and he only got convicted in Florida. And he only got jail time where he didn't have to actually spend the day at jail. He could go to his office and continue to rape children and then just sleep at the jail facility. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not a world of consequence.
No, it's
And
not.
so, you've got an entire, generation coming up now in high school, and junior high school, college, who've lived through a decade, over a 10-year period now of no consequence. Trump can say, John McCain was a failure, in Vietnam because he got captured, and there's no consequence to
Right.
that at all. And I thought, that's the end of the Trump campaign, in 2015, where he said that about John McCain. By anyone's definition, someone who behaved heroically in war, that, okay, in American politics, there's a very big consequence for that. And the consequence is your political career is over. Right. And so, um, imagine, being 25 now, right? You from age 15 have been exposed to a constant flow of no consequence.
Right.
With a with a parental structure, one hopes, that's trying to impress you with the notion of consequence, and with an educational structure that is trying to impress you with the notion of consequence. If you don't do your homework, you won't do well, in your future pursuits in life because of the following sequences of consequence. Boy, I'd have a tough time if I were in the child rearing business now, or the educational business now, trying to impress on the entering generation of voters that they live in a world of consequence.
With Biden world, he would struggle so much because it felt as if Netanyahu would not cleave, would not, Biden would say, you can't do this, and Netanyahu would do it. And there was a feeling that there was just enough, he had enough political capital in America so that he could do stuff that no other country could. Now, Trump is as aligned with him as possible. And I mean, I don't know how Trump continues to to appear even as a strong man to the MAGA base while being so humiliated by Netanyahu.
Justice Sonia Sotomayor said something very important on that very important public debate forum, The View. I personally love when the venues who were not created to bring you wisdom actually do deliver it. I mean, one of my favorite moments of, I think, my high school years occurred on the Merv Griffin show. And this is a slight diversion, I suppose. When
Merv was a
Carol
friend of my mom's, so
Oh,
I'm what?
I'm sure. And by the way, kids, look up the Merv Griffin show. It was one of those Tonight Show style shows, but it was really the most frivolous of them all, and kind of goofy with the goofiest set of guests, and therefore it had a possible chemistry that was really unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
But Carol O'Connor was on at the beginning of the second season of All in the Family, and Carol
Mm-hmm.
O'Connor, Archie Bunker, was the biggest TV star on planet Earth. That
Yes.
show exploded in its first year. It was gigantic. So Carol O'Connor is telling Merv Griffin, who is Irish, Carol O'Connor, who is Irish American, that Carol O'Connor has spent the summer, the hiatus of his series, at the Abbey Theatre in Dublin, doing a play, which is where Carol O'Connor got a lot of his early training as a young American actor in Dublin. And so Merv Griffin says, "Oh, it must have been the return of the conquering hero. They must have been so excited for you. It just must have been so incredible." And Carol O'Connor says, Merv, the Irish would always prefer you come back a failure." And and in one sentence, my entire culture was explained to me. I suddenly understood everything that surrounded me, from little league, to high school, to college and beyond. It was like, oh, thank you, Carol O'Connor. I get it. And so, the last place on earth I expected to learn the single most important thing that I hadn't yet learned, and put into words about my culture, was right there on the Merv Griffin show. Anyway, yesterday, Sonia Sotomayor on The View talked about the responsibility that voters have to educate themselves. And she used the word educate. She talked about, read my dissent, read the opinions that I'm dissenting against, educate yourself. And she did not say educate yourself as a voter. She left out the word voter, but we can all insert that word there. And when you hear what she says, you realize she's saying something hugely important that the American political news media completely ignores. And that is the simple fact that voters do not do that. And she said very clearly there, it's your responsibility. And the founders thought it was your responsibility to do that. They thought you would do that. And it's going to be available to you. And, you can go to the website now and read it all. And so you have this country of completely uneducated voters, by which I mean they are uneducated about what they are voting about.
Mm-hmm.
And then we ask, why do they think X? Or why do they think Y? Or why do they think Trump is tough? Or why do they think whatever it is they think? And it's like standing there, in a high school math class, and asking why the kindergarten students don't understand this. It's like, well, they don't have the capacity. And so it's very, very clear, that voters across the board don't do anything close to the share of homework that was expected of them in the creation of this kind of democracy, and that Sonia Sotomayor wisely said, they should do. And so, the explaining the Trump voter and the loyalism to Trump is to me, a pretty uninteresting avenue
Right.
that is statistically hopeless. It's kind of like explaining the consistency of cement. Well, it's pretty solid. It's not going to it's going to stay there. It's not going to move. And it's tragic, and it has tragic outcomes, for the country because of the electoral college and because of 2 senators per state. You live in a country where stupidity can indeed rule, and currently does.
Mike Johnson, you may remember him. He is technically the Speaker in the House, but basically only in name, had this incredible split screen that I want to ask you about. So he says Donald Trump was an FBI informant, something unbelievable to say for any number of reasons. And then last night he said, "Oh, I got mixed." He sort of backed away from that. We also saw him later yesterday say that he does not think that the birthday book is real.
Uh-huh. I mean, so, this is the great tragic decline of the Republican Party. And let's remember, it's just the Republican Party. The Democrats don't do this. When, Robert Menendez got arrested this
Yeah.
second time, by the way. But when he got arrested and the gold bars were shown publicly, that were found, in his house,
Right.
it, you couldn't find a Democrat to stand up and say those
Yeah.
aren't gold bars.
Right.
Those are not gold bars. They were not found in his house. That's not a Mercedes Benz that his second wife got. That's not what that is. And so this is a one party illness. It's unique to them. There were plenty of Democrats who were highly critical of Bill Clinton in the Monica Lewinsky scandal that led to his impeachment, and they were highly critical of him along the way of the road to impeachment. And there were a number of Democratic senators, who voted. The description of a vote, impeachment vote in the Senate, the verdict is misstated, but they voted no on the question that's in front of them is the question to remove him from the presidency. That's the
Yeah.
actual question. And they voted no, not defending his conduct. They said what he did was wrong, and his perjury was wrong. However, it doesn't rise to the level of the need to remove the president. Plenty of Democrats voted that way and made speeches that way. There were other Democrats who were very defensive of Bill
Right.
Clinton all the way through, completely. But what you saw was this mixed bag of our Democratic president is in trouble, and there was a mixed bag of reaction among Democrats, and people didn't condemn a Democrat for having a view that was different from theirs.
Mhm.
And the Republican view of it was largely anti-Clinton, almost entirely anti-Clinton, say in the House it was. The Democratic Party there showed you that if you show them evidence, in the case of Bill Clinton, in the case of Robert Menendez, and other cases, they have consistently shown you they will not deny the evidence that
Right.
you have shown them. They won't deny it. So these people will simply say to you, "Oh, that's not his signature on the
Right.
birthday note." And it's like, "Well, I think it is." And by the way, you know what a handwriting expert is? It's you. It's the human eye. There's no such thing. There is no such thing. There are people who are presented in judicial processes as handwriting experts. And what they do is they have to take the witness stand and they get questioned extensively by the lawyers on both sides and then by the judge. And only at the end of about a half an hour, sometimes an hour of questioning, does the judge declare and accept that this person's opinion on handwriting will be allowable as testimony. And so that person is then allowed to say, in my experience, this looks like that signature. So we're all handwriting experts. So we're all allowed to look at the signature, and I can look at it and say, "Yep, that's exactly the same signature that I got on a note from Trump in 2016, where he signed it Donald, one word, which is a different way than when he signs his full name. He extends out the final line, of the final the D in Donald in a peculiar way that is present in the Epstein signature. And so, there would have been, Thomas Massey said, well, the Republicans said, yeah, it looks like a signature. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
sane, that's a sane reaction to that.
Yeah.
And, the Republican Party has collapsed into this cultism that's really tragic. And it's hard to see, even when Trump leaves the scene, how they would come out of that, or why would they come out of that? They have proven to their voters that they absolutely can deny any fact they want to deny, and their voters will hang on.
Lawrence, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
I
you.
I I think I succeeded in not really responding to any of the questions,
You did
which
it
is
exactly.
I
Exactly. Well, I
I
want your
just I just want to
takes.
say to the audience, I just want to agree with you. Those of you who got lost in my answers, it's pretty obvious that I did too. And so we share that experience, audience and speaker, together. That's our bond, is that when I speak on this podcast, you, the audience, and I will both get lost together.
I think it's very I I think that the historical information about Bill Clinton that people don't, because we are the United States of amnesia, we know nothing, we remember nothing. Even the smartest of us are the United States of amnesia. That's the best case scenario. That this kind of stuff is actually really important, and it just got me thinking about the senator. I wanted to go back and look at who said what about Bill Clinton because
Yeah,
I thought
hey,
that was interesting.
you don't have to go that far. Eric Adams, Democratic mayor of New York City, he
Right.
gets caught. He gets caught in this scandal where he's accused of bribery, and no Democrats defend him, and
Yeah.
no Democrats lie about it.
Yeah. And he continues to be just a horrendous politician.
There's that.
Unbel
Yeah.
Unbelievably bad. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.